Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all you green-eyed fiends, and welcome to Fiendish and Friends episode 3. Real money, real tokens, real talk. Fiendish and Friends, what a catchphrase. Thank you, John Galt, for your Fiendish and Friends Catchphrase Competition entry, and congratulations on winning 80,228 FURU, worth around 0.11 BCH or 60 bucks. We wish you loads of fun playing some prediction bets on BCH Guru. This week, Fiendish and Friends are running a new competition for a chance to win a big stash of up to 40,000 Fiendish Emerald. Win 5,000 Fiend. You are live on Fiendish and Friends episode 3 at the snapshot, which is a random time during the episode. A screenshot of all participants will be taken. Be in it to win it. Win 20,000 Fiend by listening to Fiendish and Friends episode 3 for the entire live episode. And double your bonus, double your Fiendish Emerald reward by liking and retweeting this Fiendish and Friends space before the end of the show. It's been a week since last time. Now here's a rundown of the weekly news. Cauldron Swap's Abra update goes live. Cauldron is a BCH-based decentralized exchange, or DEX, where you can discover many of the tokens and coins BCH has to offer. The update brings a fresh layout and improved visualizations to the site, making it easier than ever to track your favorite tokens, including yield monitor and easy view of token transactions. With Cauldron in mind, Fiendish Token rose up a place on the Cauldron Token leaderboard, jumping over a fifth of gaming and into fifth position. How ironic. Shout out to David Shattuck, founder of AFOG. We love you. But that was yesterday, and since then, AFOG's came back with a vengeance and has reclaimed the lead, moving up to number 4 spot, leaving Fiendish Token back at number 6. Touche. For those wondering what this is all about, the Fiendish token is an integral part of the Fiendish and Friends ecosystem that supercharges the community growth through social games, exclusive access to goodies and services, and can be traded for either BCH or the most important asset of all, time. One Fiendish token is backed by a minimum of 1 minute of Fiendish services, consultation, expertise, and fun. Available over at Cauldron Swap. Check the comments for links. Cheapy from the Bitcoin Cash News and founder of the BCH Foundation has reached 71% of his FundMe goal of 120 BCH to continue his efforts in the ecosystem. More info coming up later directly from the horses, or better said, cat's mouth, as Cheapy joins us to discuss all his work and efforts to help the ecosystem and to learn a little more about his fundraiser. Peter Risen, chief scientist of Bitcoin Unlimited, has confirmed he will be a speaker at BCH Bliss conference in Slovenia, May 2025. Exciting. Tickets for the Ultimate P2P Cash Conference of the year do not go on sale until January 2025. Make sure you set a reminder and get yours before they all sell out. Fiendish and Friends makes it into the BCH news again. With over 400 people tuning in into episode 2, if you didn't manage to listen live, no worries, we have your back. Fiendish and Friends is recorded, and all episodes are available on your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Samsung Podcasts, Pandora, Deezer, amongst many others. We are available on YouTube. Just search for Fiendish and Friends and you'll find us. So if you can't stay for all the fiendishly delicious information today, you can always catch up afterwards at your convenience. And don't forget to share with your family, your friends, your enemies, your frenemies, and anyone that wants to keep up to date with the coolest, the hottest freedom tech information and money and finance news. On today's episode, we have joining us Claude from Basepoker to discuss what their platform offers and why BCH is their default currency of choice. Milan de Reede, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, formerly known as Mira Hurley, joins to talk about the importance of P2P Cash, NanoGPT, and what Bitcoin Cash would need to offer to get him to drop everything and become a green Bitcoin advocate. Cheapy from the Bitcoin Cash News and founder of the BCH Foundation is with us to talk about all the things he is up to supporting Bitcoin Cash and his current FundMe fundraiser. That was the news. So let's get the party started and give a big warm welcome to our first speaker, Claude from Basepoker. Hi, Claude, and welcome to Fiendish and Friends. Claude, if you're there, you have to press the unmute button so that we can hear you. It seems like Claude is having some issues with his mic. Milan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
okay. Good, just to make sure of that. So, hmm. Okay,
Just to
then
make sure you didn't have to do that entire intro all over again.
no, that that wouldn't be fun. Okay, well, hopefully Claude will be able to figure out his problems that he's having with Twitter. So we'll move on to our next guest, who's come on, who we know can work the microphone. So please welcome Milan, formerly known as Mira Hurley, which many of you will probably know, nano advocate and NanoGPT developer. Milan, welcome to Fiendish and Friends.
Thank you. I think you were close with my name, by the way, but it's a very difficult name. It's Dutch, so it's not very easy to pronounce for people who don't speak Dutch, I think.
Then could you say your name in full so that we can hear, and maybe I can try
Yeah, so
getting it right.
in Dutch it would be Milan de Reede. And I see
Milan
Bob
de
is listening,
Reede.
who I know is Dutch, so he will be able to pronounce it. But for the rest, yeah, Milan or Milan or Milan de Reed, everything works.
Yeah.
I'll accept anything that sounds remotely like my name.
Fantastic. So you're pretty easygoing then.
Yeah, have to be with such
Fantastic.
a name. Like going abroad is not easy.
Yeah, sure. So I actually live in Germany. So I'm used to
Ah,
people calling me by all kinds of different pronunciations for my name, and I'm also very accepting of that. So for me, Dutch and German isn't too weit weg entfernt. So yeah, should be able to pronounce it better. Milan, before we discuss P2P Cash and the Mira Hurley backstory, for those that are listening and don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself? Just give a bit about who you are, what you do, and why you're so active in this space.
yeah, sure. So I'm Milan. Obviously, I've been active in crypto since 2012. Back then, it was only Bitcoin, of course. My activity in crypto has sort of waxed and waned, I guess, but have been more active since 2017, 18. I then joined the Dutch central bank around the same time. So I have some experience sort of in the system and in the crypto ecosystem. And then quit the central bank about 2.5 years ago. Nowadays, I run a website which accepts crypto and which is probably one of the bigger use cases for at least Nano, but also we have a lot of Bitcoin Cash and other cryptocurrency users. Essentially, it's a way to access all of the AI models and pay using crypto. So it's better for privacy. You can deposit small sums and just not need to have a subscription. So yeah, that's what I'm working on nowadays. I'm currently in or close to Singapore. So I am Dutch, but currently not in the Netherlands. So for me, it's actually 8 p.m. at the moment. But yeah, that's my short background.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So yeah, we've got someone who was an insider working in the banking industry. So trying to make changes from within, which I like very much the idea. So I'd love to know what got you so excited, invested in cryptocurrencies. What kickstarted it all off?
So what initially kickstarted it was very simple. I played this online game and we needed to transfer value, sometimes internationally, because we played this in a team and sometimes I'd be paying people, sometimes I would be getting paid. And someone at one point was like, "Oh, we can do this with Bitcoin because PayPal fees are high." And back then it was just this sort of funny money, right? Like no one took it very seriously, but it was fun to play around with and send to each other. So that was sort of my first contact with crypto, with Bitcoin at the time. And then I think I started taking it more seriously around 2016, 2017, because it was becoming clear that it could actually be very important for the world to have a store of value and a medium of exchange that was decentralized instead of relying on inflationary currencies. I've always been interested in economic systems. It's why I worked at the central bank. And then working at the central bank, you sort of see the other side of the story, and that only got me more interested in it. But I would say initially, I started
Sorry,
using
just
crypto
thinking
just for
about
fun
that.
stuff.
Sorry, could you go a little bit more into what was the other side of the story?
Those people who are very strongly into fiat, to call it, to give it a name. Um, Central bankers have a very strong opinion generally on how money should work and on why inflation is important, why we need to have centralized money systems. and why something like crypto is such a bad idea. So it was very interesting for me because at the time I was already very active in crypto and discussing on Twitter, on Reddit. So most of the arguments I was having on Reddit and Twitter went way deeper than just like, is deflation bad, or, is inflation good? They just went way deeper into sort of consensus systems and all that kind of stuff. And then you see the other side of the equation, which is the central bank, who literally hadn't even reached step one yet of, maybe a decentralized fixed supply currency can be good. They were very strongly against even that sort of first principle from that we have in crypto. So yeah, for me, it was very interesting to see the dichotomy between those two worlds.
Yeah, for sure. That's I think you probably have more interesting insights than many in the crypto world. So, I mean, this is an interesting discussion. I'd like to come back to this, thinking about inflationary and what benefits deflationary currencies have. But before we go on there, I just really would love to know the story. So you've come out now with your real name, and we know you now as Milan. But many of us in the community have had conversations with you over Twitter, myself included, under the alias of Mira Hurley. So why is it anonymous? Why the name of Mira Hurley, and what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so it's very strongly linked to the central bank story, because if you work at the central bank and you want to discuss crypto, there is really no upside at all to using your own name. Because if I would argue against central banks, then it would kind of be used by people in crypto at some point. If I disagree too strongly with what Bitcoiners say, they would be like, okay, I'll reach out to the central bank. And if I was arguing for a specific crypto, it would always just be like, oh, you're a central bank shill, right? You're like trying to infiltrate the crypto system and pushing for this centralized currency, which must be centralized because you work at the central bank and you must agree with everything they do. So there was very little to gain from using my own name. So I decided to go anonymous and used thispersondoesnotexist.com to generate an image, or like a picture of a person. And I thought she looked very Canadian, so I just used a random name generator to to get a Canadian name, and that was Mira Hurley. That's how Mira was born.
Yeah, and I understand you. Many people were very disappointed when they found out that they couldn't marry Mira Hurley. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, I've had a few reactions which were like, "That's such a shame." She seemed like wife material, and honestly, a few fair reactions, which was like, "There are so few women in crypto." I was hoping this was one of the few who was actually a woman, but unfortunately, no. So yeah, definitely had a few people disappointed.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I said. I was the host of BCH 2022 conference in St. Kitts and Nevis, and one of the things I said there was, "We know we've made it. We know it's no longer early when the room's full of women." And that was why you were Mira Hurley was quite obviously very knowledgeable in crypto, quite technical. So we made some bets there and some assumptions that this is a man. So, but yeah, I mean it's nice. Of course, it's nice if there were more women in crypto. We do have some in BCH, but predominantly it's men. And now with the loss of Mira Hurley, we've lost another potential female in the crypto circles. But we're glad to have you, Milan, and it's great that you're now honest about who you are, and you feel that you are able to come out and lose that anonymity that you had under Mira. But that's an interesting question, though. What made you ditch that anonymity, and what made you go public?
Yeah, so first of all, I was just thinking we do have some women in crypto, because at the Nano Foundation, George is one of the two directors, and she's a woman. Definitely not a fake woman. I've seen her on enough video calls to be able to confirm. But what made me ditch Mira was essentially I didn't have strong reasons anymore to stay anonymous, because I wasn't working at the central bank anymore. So that reason was kind of gone. And also, NanoGPT has been growing like really fast enough that we had to start a company for it. And starting a company means you enter all of these public registries, and then you're in there with your own name, your full name, even address and stuff, I think. So my anonymity was gone anyway, and everyone knew that NanoGPT was linked to Mira. But then if people look up NanoGPT and they see not Mira as a name, but they see Milan as a name, then it's going to be quite obvious anyway. So I figured, okay, I have some upsides from no longer being anonymous. I can do this kind of stuff. I can join podcasts. I can join conferences, all that kind of stuff. And, I'm going to be doxxed anyway by anyone who like makes any sort of attempt. So might as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it has some advantages too, right? I mean, I was anonymous in the community for for quite a while using different aliases, um, uh, and that has its advantages, as I'm sure you are aware. It's there's some disadvantages coming out too. But coming out allows for these sort of experiences, talking on podcasts, showing your face, which we're not doing right now in spaces. But when you have got your face out there and people can see my face, for example, speaking at conferences, of course it helps greatly in making that connection, and people start thinking, okay, this is real, as opposed to just anonymous people online. Just a question about that. So since coming out from behind your pseudonymity, what have been the biggest changes for you, and overall, was that change, was it positive or negative, and what you consider your mission with P2P Cash?
So I think the biggest change has probably been these podcasts and streams and spaces and whatever you want to call it, which I always wanted to do, but I was never able to, obviously. So I've joined quite a few now, and I really like doing it. So that's been a big positive change, I think. Aside from that, honestly, the change has not been that big. I don't feel like people treat me that differently now. Um, so yeah, in that sense, it's mostly just being able to do more stuff, which I think is only a positive. But I haven't noticed it in many other ways. Also because some people who were like close to me in the crypto space did already know, so for them it wasn't any sort of surprise. But yeah, the podcasts have been a big plus.
Yeah, and I've seen you've been on a few. One of the ones in closer to home was with Jeremy from the Bitcoin Cash podcast, and it was really interesting. As I said, we've had some interactions over the past, and to finally be able to see the name, the person behind this account, it's very interesting. It's very, very cool. So I understand that you're against the main banking proposition. This is one of the things that I've heard you talk about, that inflation is good and deflation is bad. So this is something you're against, and I'd love to go into the thoughts here. With your experience, you've been working in the banking industry and you have understanding of money. So from your perspective, why do you think that inflation isn't a good thing? And what makes deflationary currencies such as Nano and Bitcoin Cash a better alternative?
Yeah, so I think inflation is kind of a distorting force. So the idea behind inflation, of course, is if you have inflation, then you incentivize people to spend their money, which is good for the economy. We keep money flowing, all that kind of stuff. But also, in a way, it's a very hidden sort of tax, right? It's if you have 2% inflation, that's 2% tax on everyone who's holding money. And those who are holding cash or holding like direct money instead of stocks or shares or whatever are usually those who don't have all that much in assets. Like if you're really rich, you're not going to be holding it in cash. You have stocks, so you're not impacted by the inflation. It's mostly the poorer people who get impacted by it more, I think. So I think it's a very unfair tax. I like if you want to have a wealth tax, I think that should be democratically decided, and then you can decide how you want to do it exactly, but not this sort of broad ranging regressive sort of tax that is undemocratic, to be honest, because central banks are not democratically chosen. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to have it. I also think the issues with deflation or with fixed supply are kind of overstated because so it's a funny story. I actually told this at breakfast this morning. I used to teach sort of after school class economics when I was in high school, and I would have to explain to people like, okay, this shirt will be cheaper next year, so then you postpone your purchase, right? Because it's cheaper in a year, so then you get more value for your money. And they were just like, no, I would still get the shirt now because I want to have the shirt. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of stuff where it's not so much that people are actually going to wait with their purchases because you still need food, you still need to pay for your rent, you still need to pay for a lot of stuff. It's not like it's an option not to pay.
Exactly.
So I feel that argument is kind of overstated, to be
Yep.
honest. And oh, sorry. And I honestly don't think it's such a big deal. Like, it's already the case that we could wait with a bunch of purchases and get stuff cheaper. But you want to have the newest phone every time it comes out. You want to have, I don't know, a new TV instead of the one that was like 1 year old. So I think it's a massive overstatement that people have, like that people need to be incentivized to spend. I think the reverse is kind of true. I think as a merchant, we prefer accepting crypto because we prefer to hold crypto. So we could accept fiat like dollars or euros, but then we would want to swap it into crypto because every day we hold euros or dollars, we're getting debased. So we prefer to hold crypto. And then if you pay us in fiat, we have to convert it into crypto. So it's a lot more efficient for us to just like accept crypto directly. And then, if it's more efficient to accept crypto directly for the merchant, then why not also spend your crypto or be incentivized to spend your crypto with a small discount or whatever? Like, it makes no sense to have something as a store of value, swap it into fiat that's debasing the entire time to pay someone who's then swapping it back. It's far more efficient to just use the money that's also a strong store of value on sort of both sides of the equation. So yeah, I'm rambling a bit,
No,
but
it's great.
I just don't think inflation is
It's
necessary.
great, and to be honest, this is a topic that interests me greatly. So I studied economics, and so I have a background in understanding about monetary policy and why certain choices are made, and thinking about the time limits of this spaces and the other people we've got on. This is a conversation that I'm pretty sure I could have quite a lot of enjoyment talking about with you for many hours. You said it, one of the things that a point that I really like on that I really like is that inflation is a regressive tax, and this is something that's because it's not considered a tax. People really like don't understand what that means, but it is as regressive as a tax because it affects those without assets, without shares, without things that are buoyed by by inflation. It affects them the most. So the person that's living from wage to wage, they're impacted the most by inflation, and they'll never be able to afford a house. They'll never be able to afford to get capital to actually get out of that. And the people that are most benefited by inflation are those with huge amounts of capital because the capital price is buoyed by inflation. That's why the price of gold continues to go up. Would it be going up if we had a deflationary currency? No. um and so it's a tax that really punishes those at the bottom the hardest, which, whether you're left or right, this seems like something we could be united against it. That this is a bad form of tax. Whether you're for taxes or not, this is not a good form of tax. But the other point that you touched upon, which I really like, is, thinking about GDP. So the idea of inflation is to increase expenditure, increase GDP. And the thing with the counter of that is, well, the argument is we consume so much and therefore we damage the planet. And with inflationary currencies, we consume more. We buy that crap thing because the value of our money is going down. And so rather than saving and buying what we really want, we spend quicker and more frivolous. And so, as an understanding actually how GDP is calculated, I'm quite of the mind that if people were to spend less because of an a deflationary currency, so they were to rather save, to not buy that new phone every year, but to save and spend it on the things that are the highest quality and the most value for them. Because if they don't buy that shitty phone this year, they can buy the best one next year. Then the GDP will go down, right? Technically, the GDP must be going down, but the wealth of the individual will go up because the idea that GDP equals wealth is nonsense. It's just an accounting game. Um, so it's really really interesting, and I think on this particular point we're very aligned, and it makes a lot of sense why you're into deflationary currencies, into cryptocurrencies such as Nano or Bitcoin Cash. And but just to keep, so maybe we could have that conversation and go into some more depth in a bit of a wider talk, Milan, because that is really interesting. I'm sure many people on the listening will find that interesting. But moving on, one of the services you created is NanoGPT. So can you tell us a bit what this service offers and what benefits it has over using other AI implementations?
Yeah, sure. So NanoGPT is essentially a place where we collect all of the AI models in one place. So really, literally all of them. So it's ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, Perplexity, the open source models, anyone you can think of. And instead of having a subscription to one or multiple of those providers, We just let people use whatever they want and only pay for what they use. There's no subscription, there's no sort of monthly fees or anything. It's just you do a prompt and you pay for the prompt, which is on average about 1 cent. It depends very much how big the prompts are and what model you're using. But essentially, we wanted to create a way that anyone could have access to the top models without needing subscriptions, but also without giving up all of this private information. Because usually for the top models, you get a subscription, which you get with a credit card, which is linked to your name. You have to input all of this personal information. It's honestly a privacy nightmare, I think, because many people share their deepest secrets with all of these models. It's like their medical history or, things they're uncertain about or, anything really. People really talk a lot to these models. I would prefer it if my prompts and everything I ask these AIs is not directly linked to my name. Like it's a sort of honeypot for hackers that's just waiting to be attacked, I think. And what we do is essentially we give you actual privacy. So there's no need to even create an account. You can just visit our website, deposit some Bitcoin Cash, Nano, whatever you want to use, and start using these models. And we don't care who you are. We don't send any of your personal information, honestly, also because we don't have any of your personal information to these model providers. So we try to give people as good privacy as is possible with these models. All of the conversations and the prompts are only stored on your own device. We do not store anything. So yeah, we think it's a great way for people to be able to access all these models. Even if you have just 10 cents to spend, you can just put some onto NanoGPT, get a few prompts to these top models. We know of people that literally have only spent 5 cents and that like message us saying it had been very helpful for medical stuff or for reviewing a program or all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it feels like we're doing some good. We're sort of opening up access to these models to more people. But yeah, that's NanoGPT in a nutshell. We also do image generation, but that's a whole other subject.
That's great. So what I'm hearing is non-KYC and pay as you go, which I'm sure will make many people in the audience very happy because KYC is a big topic that most people in the crypto community are very unanimous about. Like it's awful, and you should be able to interact with the internet and do things in a way that's anonymous and not linked to your name. Thanks for that. That's great. So, what made you choose the coins that you did that you accept for Nano Chat GPT? So, I know one of them you accept Bitcoin Cash, which is great for Bitcoin Cash users. So, what made you choose that coin or any of the others for GPT to support?
Yeah, so we obviously started with Nano because I honestly just think it's the best medium of exchange there is. I also think it's the best store of value. We use it as our store of value. And it's just really easy for payments. I had been playing around with it before, so I knew how to use it. My co-founder was also big into Nano, so that one makes a lot of sense, I think. And then when we were deciding to add a second coin, it was honestly more of a gut-based thing, I would almost say, than an actual analysis. I interact with Bitcoin Cash people quite a bit on Twitter. They're always super nice. They're very genuine, I think, in wanting to be able to use crypto as money rather than, being into just a store of value or gambling or whatever. So it was more of a like this seems like a good group, a good group or community to try and integrate with. So let's add Bitcoin Cash and see how it goes. So we added Bitcoin Cash next. I honestly think that's been a great idea because we had super helpful people to help us with the implementation. We used prompt cache, but anytime we like ran into an issue or needed testers, there were like 10 people helping us. So that was really great. And the entire Bitcoin Cash community has given tons of feedback. Like literally earlier today, again, there was someone giving feedback where I'm like, yeah, we really need to add this. That's a good idea. So yeah, we've been very happy to have Bitcoin Cash on the platform. And then after that, we just sort of looked at BitPay, what is used most on there. So I think next up we added Litecoin. We also added Banano in between because it's a nano fork. It actually has a pretty big community. And then we just sort of went down the list. So Monero is used a lot, and then we started adding Bitcoin, Solana, the ETH L2s, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think by now we cover most of the sort of actually useful payment cryptos.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's quite a long list there, and I think this is really good and speaks to what I understand about you that you're not a maximalist. You're just looking to get P2P Cash out there, and having all these different coins being able to use your service must be much better for you as a business, because then you're not penciling yourself into just one
Mhm.
community. You can tap into everything, which makes me interested. I mean, can you say, is it possible to say which communities are using Nano GPT the most? I mean, I'm guessing Nano is in place one. That would be the logical assumption. Is that the case? And what
Yeah.
then would be the second largest used currency for using your tools?
Yeah, so Nano indeed is the largest, which yeah, obviously makes sense. We're gonna release stats on which coins are on sort of the ranking of which coins are used most in 2 days, because then we have data for a full month for November. Many of these coins we only added in October or start of November. But so Bitcoin Cash was always the second biggest, and I was actually looking at it earlier today, but it's sadly been overtaken by Monero. So right now it's Nano, then Monero, and I believe it's still Bitcoin Cash after that one. But I haven't done like a deep analysis on it. This is just volume based, so it might be that there are more Bitcoin Cash payments, but they're just smaller amounts. I'm gonna look into it in 2 days to release the statistics on it. We think it would be useful also for others who implement crypto payments to have a sort of second opinion on BitPay, because as some have said, BitPay is maybe a little biased. So we're hoping we can release a list as well and show sort of which currencies are actually used. And then, when other merchants start considering it, they can just look at our list and be like, okay, maybe don't implement Dogecoin because it's actually not used so much, sadly. But maybe focus on, actual payment cryptos.
Yeah, this is true. It's a discussion I was having earlier. You can see on Dogecoin, they have huge amounts of transactions on chain, but just like with liquidity of tokens or even cryptos, these online transactions don't necessarily mean that there's actually real usage of it. It's very something that's very easy to manipulate to get people to sort of FOMO into that.
Yeah.
Um, it's really interesting information and insights, and I think that you will see a good amount of Bitcoin Cash usage, because even if you're a Nano proponent, and even in the end, if the back end it gets swapped into Nano, from if you believe in Bitcoin Cash, or if you believe in the currency, a coin as money, then you're using it for a service or a good, and however that person uses that money is none of your concern. So if you are interested in using AI without KYC, then it's a really good service to spend some Bitcoin Cash on. So a biggest question,
Can,
I'm guessing.
can I add one thing? Sorry.
Sorry.
I Can I add one thing? I'm looking at our dashboard really quick to try and figure it out. It turns out it's Bitcoin Cash is being used more than it was. It's just others have grown quicker, I think.
Ah, okay.
So it's not like the amount of Bitcoin Cash is decreasing. It's just since we've added other coins, they're also being used a lot.
Okay,
So
that's interesting.
I need to start. Yeah, yeah. So it's still a good amount of Bitcoin Cash usage. It's just also a good amount of other coin usage, which is nice for us.
It's good, great for you, and it'd be great information for the community to be able to look at that, just to see, get an idea of which communities are spending their currencies and their cryptos. Yeah, so Milan, a question for our viewers will likely be, from the P2P Cash coins that are out there, such as Bitcoin Cash and all the others, what is it that made you choose Nano as your coin of choice? You did already mention a few points there, but maybe you could just go into a bit more detail there. Why Nano?
Yeah, so for me, I could make it a very long story or very short. I'll try and make it a bit shorter. I think what you want in money is for it to be quickly confirmed, like quick to transfer, and you want it to be cheap to transfer, and you want it to be scalable. And I think we can all agree those are like the important aspects. And then Bitcoin Cash does very well on those, but I honestly think Nano does best because it's like literally instant. It's 400 milliseconds. It's zero fees now and always, and it scales very easily. It's like it has no inbuilt restrictions. It's just the further the hardware scales, the more transactions it can do per second. So as money, honestly, it's very hard to beat instant zero fees and scalable, I think. And then for the store of value aspect, I see some issues with Bitcoin and with proof of work in that I think mining tends to centralize over time. I also have some issues with the security budget in Bitcoin. I think that's slightly different in Bitcoin Cash. But yeah, I think many crypto tend to centralize over time, which is the opposite of what I want from my decentralized currency. Whereas in Nano, all of the incentives are to decentralize. So everyone who holds Nano has an incentive to help decentralize the network, the chain. So for me, it would be a lot easier if I believed more strongly in, say, Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin or whatever, because obviously Nano is a lot smaller right now, but it's just really difficult for me to find something that works as well as Nano and that I can believe in as strongly for the long term as Nano. So yeah, just want to say I'm not a maxi. Like, we accept many coins, and I think many coins work really well. But for me, Nano just is difficult to beat.
Yeah, that's fair points. So just, just thinking about the three key points you said, so that it's instant. This is also something, if you've used Bitcoin Cash, anyone that's out there. So I send money from one wallet to another. That's also, it is instant. It's literally when I click the send button, it receives on the other side. So I think we're pretty comparable on that. With the scaling as well, this is a critical point, and there is a difference between BTC, which of course has just hobbled its scaling; it won't scale, and the other extreme, which is
Hmm.
BSV, which is let's just create terror blocks and whatever, which of course leads to huge centralization. And BCH currently has got an algorithm called ABLA, the adaptive block limiting algorithm, which actually scales with the technology. So as people are using the blocks and filling them up within a certain rules, the block size grows. Where Nano does win, of course, is the fact that it's free. It doesn't cost anything at all. So Bitcoin Cash is a fraction of a cent. So I think you can send roughly about 10 transactions currently for 1 cent. Which for me, when I think of bank usage and what I have to pay for my bank fees every month to have a bank card, this is more than reasonable to be paying for security. But I give you that, Nano doesn't cost the user even a fraction of a cent for sending. So when you've said just now you're not a maximalist, and I think this is a very interesting part of you. You said this also on the Bitcoin Cash podcast, and that Nano is simply the best coin in your mind. With that in mind, Milan, what would Bitcoin Cash have to change for you to think that BCH was the best P2P coin in the market?
Yeah, so the answer will probably be similar to with Jeremy then. So I think in terms of using it as money, you're right. The differences are not that big, although I think the feeling of zero fee is just a lot better than any fee at all. It's also a lot easier to develop with in a way, but the differences are not that huge there. I think for me, the differences are bigger on the store of value side, just because I find it hard to convince myself that mining does not centralize over time. Like, there are economies of scale in mining, especially in ASIC mining. Never sure if I pronounce this correctly. Especially in
It's good.
ASIC mining, there just are economies of scale. And then if you have economies of scale, you have the big miners getting ever bigger. That does not reassure me that consensus stays decentralized. And I'm not even talking about mining pools, it's just the actual miners underlying the protocol or underlying the hash rate becoming ever bigger and more concentrated. I find that a pretty bad long term incentive. So that would be the primary thing that would need to change, I think, for me to want to switch. But then that is so inbuilt in how proof of work chains work and proof of stake to an extent, that I think that is really difficult to change also. And I think Nano is actually the only one probably that has actually solved that with proper incentives for people to decentralize. And I think that makes it special more so than the transactions. Like, transactions, like, let's be honest, it's really fun to send something to someone, have them get it instantly and be like, zero fees paid. But it's more of a party trick in a sense, because you can do that with bank transactions nowadays as well, in most countries anyway, or in developed countries, I guess. Uh, that is not sort of the competitive advantage in the long run. I think the long run advantage is the store of value decentralization aspect.
Yeah, and I would definitely agreed with the decentralization point. If something is not, if the cryptocurrency isn't decentralized, or if it at any point will centralize to the point that it's broken, or it's truly centralized, then it's game over. Then we've just replaced the banking system with banking system 2.0. You say you're not a maximalist, and I believe that. And as I understand, you would happily use another coin if it was proved in your mind to be better than Nano. I hear your arguments, and to be honest, I would quite love to spend some time delving into that. Just an episode where we can look into the pros and cons of proof and stake and proof of work, because I think we would have a really fruitful conversation. I have a different opinion than you. But so those arguments are good. But But it sounds like, you are someone that is willing to listen to alternative takes, as you have been doing over the last few years, and that's why you've become stronger proponent of Nano. But of course, the only way you can shift your
Mhm.
perspective anywhere else is by listening to such takes. And we've got the ultimate P2P cash conference of the year, in my mind, next May, Bliss 2025. So it's in Slovenia. Is there any chance that we'd see you at such a conference where you get to meet the Bitcoin Cash developers and lots of the people actually working on the protocol, people working on products? Is there any chance of seeing yourself at such a conference?
Yeah, so I think was it you or someone else who mentioned it to me
Could it be me?
that this
I'm
was
shelling
going on?
out.
Because I nice, okay. So I already have it in my agenda for May 13 to 15, just to see if I can if I can make it. But if I remember correctly, I have something else at the time as well, but I cannot find it in my agenda. So
You're
I have to
waiting
check
for
with
the
my
good
girlfriend, who is
excuse.
my actual no, no, my girlfriend is way more structured than I am,
Okay.
so I have to ask her what's actually going on. But no, and Slovenia is pretty close to me, so yeah, honestly, sounds fun. I want to go to more conferences. I don't know what BCH Bliss is like, but yeah, I would definitely go to conferences of other coins than Nano. So there's definitely a chance you see me
That'd
there.
be fantastic if you were there. You'd be more than welcome. And because the principles that you have are very much in line with what I understand the Bitcoin Cash community stands for. And I was there at BCH Bliss this year, the start this year, and it was a truly wonderful experience. Just lots of great people that really believe in the mission of P2P Cash for the world, who are doing their best to sort of push that frontier. So Milan, if you are able to come, you are very welcome, and you'll be very warmly received. Um, and you know, I would love, as I said, to have there's so many stuff, there's so much stuff that you mentioned that I'd love to go into in more detail, but unfortunately, we just don't have the time today. So I'm just going to say it from my perspective. So from Fiendish and Friends, we have done quite some research into proof of work versus proof of stake. Nano being proof of stake, Bitcoin Cash being proof of work, and we've come to the strong conclusion that while both have their trade-offs, that proof of work offers the best security and protection for sound money, especially against centralization, which is a fear, Milan seeing it from a different perspective, which, is also valid. But in the worst case, where there was a 51% centralization of miners, it's always possible to add more mining rigs into the ecosystem to decentralize and allow the network to function as intended so that no payments can be blocked. But once someone has 51% of a proof of stake coin, such as when two or three large holders come together to form a cartel, they control the system for as long as they want. And this is just like our current banking system, the one that cryptocurrency was designed to replace, with a better, more efficient, decentralized, and fairer system. And unlike proof of work, when proof of stake is hijacked, the fear is, the way that I see it, is that forking off brings the problems with you, as those entities will still own their 51% of the voting supply on the new chain. And this contrasts greatly with proof of work, where forking, while still incredibly painful, as Bitcoin Cash can contest to, it allows for a reset of any co-opting of the network and then followed by regrowth. So our position is decentralization, and I'm pretty sure Milan, you would agree with this. Maybe just not the way to get there, but decentralization is the key underlining point of cryptocurrency. Where we will differ is proof of stake, for me and for our perspective, is simply redoing the current banking system that Bitcoin was designed to mostly make redundant to the benefit of almost every person on the planet. And the second point, which is important, is the needs of people in 2024 are much more than for simply dumb money, which we have requirements for direct debits, for standing orders, for subscriptions, for loans, digitizing assets, or even stabilizing value, which is possible on any hedge where you can lock your BCH value to things such as gold, silver, or even BTC. But that all said, the magic of a free market of ideas is there are lots of different implementations and variations of things, such as digital P2P cash, and different ways of thinking and trying out things that, and the competition that comes from that invariably leads to the best possible outcome for the user and for the world. So if you find Nano interesting, check it out. Give Milan a follow. And for all you BCH lovers out there, you're all invited to please go and use some of your BCH on NanoGPT for non-KYC AI services at nano-gpt.com. I'll make sure that's also in the comments. Um, Thank you so much, Milan, for joining today. We may be on different teams, but I feel very much that we are aligned on the destination, and we're looking forward to getting to that destination together under the spirit of cooperation. And as I said, I would love to have a more in-depth and detailed conversation with you on all of the points we've discussed and so much more, because I can imagine it being very enlightening, even if in the end we don't quite agree on the methods of getting there.
Nice. Yeah, I would love to do that as well. And if anyone wants to try NanoGPT or Nano itself, just send me a message. I'll gladly send you some Nano otherwise to try with if you don't have any Bitcoin Cash to put into our website. But yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun. And I'd love to do the long term or long form discussion sometime as well.
Fantastic. Okay, let's stay in contact and try and arrange that. I think it'd be good if you know of any others to join in, because this is what I love with the different communities is we may be batting for different teams, but I've also experienced it from Nano is that it's a bit different. The people there you can have most of them you can have reasonable conversations with, even if there are a difference in the opinion. The opinions I think have a lot of validity and they're based on logic from that person's perspective. So it's really great to have you on here, and it's an honor to have you on here, and I'm really looking forward to having that longer forum for deeper conversation. Cloud, are you able to speak now?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Hey, how are you doing? I can hear you loud and clear.
Great, great. I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Very, very good. I'm so glad that it's working now. So is it Claude or Cloud?
Claude.
Claude, okay, good. So yeah, Claude, welcome to Fiendish and Friends. I'm sure many people listening and in the BCH community have seen your post from Basepoker. There's been quite a few adverts over the last few weeks, but maybe you could just give a little introduction about you, your company, and what Basepoker has to offer.
Yeah, great. So personally, I've been involved with crypto and blockchain for a while. It's similar to Milan. I didn't work at the central bank, but I used to work for as a consultant for central bank in Singapore and South Korea for a CBDC project actually. But it was before I got into the crypto before, and then I sort of the bear market came, and I sort of kind of lost the trust in it. Then I got into the permission chain, which is all about CBDC, depository receipts and all this institutional sort of use cases. So I worked at a company called R3. Uh, and then I realized that this thing doesn't work in a permissioned based manner. It was all sort of the just wordplay. Um, so I left the company, and I got back to the sort of the real crypto, which is permissionless payment side. And I founded a company and built a online casino using crypto, and then we sold it to a UK company. After that, we were sort of discussing what to do next, and I started playing poker after the acquisition, and then I fell in love with it, and then I tried to find uh, uh, the right product to play using crypto, and I couldn't really find the right one at the time, so we decided to build it last year. So it's been almost a year we've been building, uh, and yeah, it is.
Fantastic. Okay, that's quite a journey. There's a lot more to unpack. I look at the time and think, okay, I would like to delve in much deeper into that backstory, such as with the work with the CBDC. But just you said we, so the hints to the fact that it's not just you then behind base poker. So my question would be, how many people are behind base poker?
We currently have about 10 people, and
Wow.
including the sort of outsourcing developers, we have about 12. Yeah, it requires a lot of work. Poker is very complex. We didn't even know before we get into it, and then we realized that this is no joke. But yeah, we're barely making it, and yeah, about 10 people.
Okay, that is quite a business. And just thinking about at the moment. when going on to base poker, when you try and when BCH is used as the default currency, and what made you choose BCH from everything that's out there?
BCH is the first sort of non-fiat currency. We have USDT. Uh, well, because I have many friends in BCH community, I've been part of the BCH community back in the days actually. I used to host meetups around Asia. I invited Roger Veer and some other guys too. I'm a big believer, proponent of big blocks, and BCH obviously, you know, uh, sort of follows that trajectory. Uh, yeah, and then I remember playing. I wasn't a poker player back then. I'm still terrible, but I played one time at a place called Blockchain.poker. But by the time we started building, it was shut down. So I remember I was looking at I was doing some research, and then BCH community were very missing that product. They very enjoy that product, but it's gone. So I just thought that our BCH uh, communities probably have the similar product experience before, so it's very easier to get in, and obviously zero confirmation, micropayment, these are very helpful. So we actually launched the USDT version first, and then BCH came later. But if you go to our website, there are more players, more deposits from BCH than actual USDT. So we kind of switch the default to BCH, and then USDT is the second currency.
Oh, that is great. Great to hear. So that means BCH is the default, not out of philosophical reasons, but because it's the most used currency on your website.
Yes, because when you look at the lobby, when you go to the lobby, you have to know how many people are playing, and if you have to click BCH filter to see how many people play, that's one step uh more. But when USDT player, when there's no USDT player, but when there's like 10 BCH players, we want to show at the first front page, oh, people are playing, so we had to basically make BCH as default.
Yeah, okay. That's and so how is the growth going with the site? How much usage are you seeing? Is it where you the level that you were expecting?
Uh, it's definitely growing. I think we're adding about 5 to 10 users daily. But poker is tricky thing. A lot of people play poker, but a lot of people are not poker players. So most of them just deposit and play a little bit and then withdraw. But real poker players, like people who really enjoy playing poker every day, they just come in, constantly deposit. They don't really withdraw money. They keep playing. So we have about 120 BCH players right now. So yeah, I think deposit amount is going up, players number going up. I think we didn't tap into the entire BCH community yet, but we're trying our best to do so.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll come up with some extra information about this and about how some sort of event that we're planning to organize to help with this. Just as a bit of info, so yeah, you say you're not a great poker player, then hey, we need to play together, right? And for some high stakes. I used to
Yeah.
play poker semi-professionally, so I actually
Oh,
used
great.
to play a lot. I actually have a really sad story. It was also where as a great reminder that as much skill is in poker, there's also a tremendous amount of luck. So I actually did a game with 1,000 players. It was 999 players. It was a low stakes buy-in. I come at like $20 or something. But the winner got to go on. I can't remember which poker tournament it was. This is back in 2008, roughly. But you would get on a super yacht where there'd be like the main like World Series poker tournament, and you'd be entered in there. And I think the cost of getting on that was about 50,000 or something. It was some stupid amount, and the prize pot of winning that would be like God knows how many million. And I beat 997 of the players. And
Wow.
it was just me and the final player. And I had all the chips. And they were forced to go all in. This is no lie. I can't remember the exact amount. I think it was 17, but it was somewhere between 13 and 17, like around that times. They were forced to go all in because they couldn't cover the big blind. and they won every time. And then they
Wow.
went on to win. And that was the
Yeah.
point where I was like, I'm just gonna keep this for fun now. This is it's a poker's a wicked game. It's wicked fun. I love it, and there is enough skill there to make it interesting, but there's enough luck there to make sure that even the noobs can have some fun there, and sometimes completely obliterate even pro players. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was my little story.
Yeah, that's poker.
Yeah. So yeah, currently, what are the offers that Base Poker is offering to entice people to your site? Do you still have
Sorry,
some?
can you
The
can
any
you
offers, or I saw that you were doing an offer that you were giving for new signups. There was a small bonus for signing up, or is this something you're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
offering?
Yeah, so anybody who well, anybody can DM to the Facebook or Twitter anytime. I'll give you some BCH, small amount just to try it for fun. About 0.005 BCH, about $2-3. Uh yeah, so yeah, that's what we're doing, but we're not doing a lot of sort of heavy uh intensive marketing yet because we don't have the multi-table tournaments yet. So once the multi-table tournament comes out, we'll be doing a lot of free roll high GTD games going, and that's how usually the most poker sites acquire users. It's very hard for a poker site to sustain with just cash game. So yeah, tournament MTT is very, very important. So we're building it. I think hopefully it's gonna come out at end of this year or early next year.
Yeah, that's exciting. It also gives people a chance to enter a game with very low um, upfront fee, but with a chance of winning an attractive pot if they're lucky. So yeah, for those of you that are listening, give a heart or a thumbs up to this particular point. Who in the audience would like to see a live streamed BCH All Stars poker match on Base Poker? We got any hearts, any likes for this? We've got one hand up. Well, okay. Maybe we won't do that. Well, because we're organizing this, we've actually got some already some BCH developers, content creators, and renowned BCH builders that are already really game for this to live stream this with Jeremy from the Bitcoin Cash podcast, and to do this as a sort of run up to Christmas treat, which I think can be a lot of fun for the community. It's just all BCHs having some fun, drinking some whiskey, and Alex, I'm sure, is going to be there too, and playing some poker. But it's also a great opportunity to advertise yourself a bit, Base Poker, and draw some people onto your site. Claude, just as a quick question, because I have to move on and get Cheapy on here to talk about his fundraiser. So we've got the hottest P2P Cash conference in May 2025 with BCH Bliss. Will we be seeing you or anyone from your 10/12-man team, Base Poker, attending?
Hopefully I would like to be there. If I'm near that wherever the conference is, I'll probably attend. I'll be around. I move around a lot, so I go to Vietnam and live there for a month. I go to Bali for 2 months and stuff like that. So if I'm close there, I'll probably fly over there and attend it.
Okay. We hope to see you there, and anyone else that's listening, make sure to join. It's a real. If anyone that loves Bitcoin Cash, it's just a great experience. Thanks so much, Claude, for joining on today's episode. Just as a reminder to our listeners, so poker is a game that involves as much chance as it does skill. Hopefully, listen to my story as a sort of a reminder of that. So, Fiendish and Friends' view is that online poker should be seen as adult entertainment. So, go and spend some BCH, and you can have an enjoyable evening playing cards. And who knows, you might even get your BCH back at the end of the night. So check out basepoker.com. I've put links in the comments for all of your online poker needs. And Base Poker's offering means adding yet another BCH accepting site and service to the ever growing network. And as a reminder, the power and utility of money is exponentially linked to the size of this network. So in this regard, we are always happy to see new businesses using and accepting BCH. So thank you so much, Claude. It was great having you on. And on the topic of money, now's the time to welcome our next guest. We have got Cheapy, the founder of the Bitcoin Cash Foundation, writer of the BCH Weekly News, moderator of most well-known BCH Telegram groups, and world-famous BCH feline mascot. Hi, Cheapy. Great to have you on Fiendish and Friends as an official speaker for the very first time.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
Am I coming in stereo? So usually on Twitter Spaces, I'm only in the left channel for some reason. Am I in stereo this time?
It's funny because you are on stereo,
Yes.
but when I did the mix last time, you were on stereo, but then it was just in one ear once I'd actually published it. So I'm guessing that right now it's in mono, and that's why we don't hear. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
We'll find out when it's published on YouTube and on the podcast.
if so, apologies for people who have no hearing in the right side. Or difficulty. So my right ear is not as good as my left ear, so I sympathize with you, and I'll try to correct it in the future. When I joined, I was on my phone with my headset, but I couldn't become a speaker for some reason, so I had to switch to the PC, which is where this stereo problem comes in. But thanks for having me.
The oddities of Twitter.
The oddities of Twitter. It's lovely to talk to you again. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I may have a few. So, Cheapy, you're pretty well known in the BCH community. Nevertheless, I imagine there will be some people out there who don't know you. And I think there's probably a lot of people that don't know the full breadth of all the work you're doing. So, could you just let the audience know a little bit about who you are and all the activities you're involved in?
How much time do you have? For a really good in-depth breakdown, I wrote my Bitcoin biography, whatever you want to call it. It's on read.cash. I've also been on the Bitcoin Cash podcast with Jeremy. There's multiple episodes of me talking about my history there. Casual BCH podcast, there's a whole episode of me talking there too. But yeah, very briefly, I've been in the space since 2011. I got my very first sats from Gavin's faucet, and was not heavily involved until the split, when I really felt that things needed help. It wasn't I didn't trust the miners and the core developers to make decisions anymore. So when the fork happened, I was right on board. And even before the fork, I ran a node, what's it called now, that Gavin and Dagger worked on. Jump in if anybody knows. I forget what it's called now.
Bitcoin XT or Bitcoin Classic?
XT. Thank you very much. I was thinking Bitcoin X, but I was like, no, that's not right. Yes, XT. And I went to. I live in Japan, and the very first Bitcoin Cash conference ever was in Tokyo. I'd never been to any kind of crypto event or meetup or anything like that before, and I thought, well, I really need to go and meet some of these people and get an idea about what's going on in the space, because rightfully so, I felt like Bitcoin, the project that Satoshi had developed, was being hijacked and redirected to something which isn't what I support and what I want for the world. And that was the first meeting of like-minded people that I knew existed, and of course it was a life-changing experience, and ended up starting the Osaka Bitcoin Cash meetup, and from there it's just grown over time, and started doing more and more things. I did organized when DevCon was here in Osaka. I co-organized, I should say, the Bitcoin Cash DevCon after party. Started doing moderation on Telegram because there wasn't really anybody in my time zone moderating. Started working with Satoshi's Angels. I started off as just English news editor, and then they asked me if I would write the English news. And then, of course, unfortunately, they decided to discontinue news activities, and I thought it was important enough to carry on. And so for more than a year now, I forget exactly how long it's been. I've just been doing it independently, and that sort of went hand in hand. I guess I should probably talk about the foundation itself, not just my activities, but the foundation. I wrote about that on read.cash as well. Check it out. Really just started as because Bitcoin Cash has nothing official. And yet for the world, everyone wants some kind of official contact point or some official word to give the information from the source, right? But that's in a decentralized system like Bitcoin Cash. That's not how it works. But just the power of an email address, Cheapy actually Cheap Lightning at bitcoincashfoundation.org has a lot of power behind it. And so if Cheap Lightning at yahoo.com or whatever emails you and says, hey, we're updating our node, you guys should update it.
Yeah, I've blocked that address.
Right. Right. Nobody will pay attention to it because who are you and what are you doing? But BitcoinCashFoundation.org has power behind it, and it's a contact point. And the thing about a decentralized system, not just mining, but as far as development, etc., your proof of work as a person or an organization, etc., is your reputation. And if you do good work and people trust you, then they will endorse you and they will support your work. If you don't do good work, well, then you will quickly fade away into obscurity. And so I never pretend to be, the official source of Bitcoin Cash anything. I am the unofficial official sanitary engineer of the Bitcoin Cash Foundation.
Well put. You're doing the work that no one else wants to, but it's important.
Yes. And so, for example, when Bitcoin Cash node upgraded last year, I sent out literally hundreds of messages and emails to stakeholders. Many of the people in the audience here may have gotten contact from me about it as well, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, or at least is notified about what's going on. And then again, when there was a bug fix released a few months later, I replicated the whole process over and over again, and hounded organizations as well to get a response from them, because it is a bug fix, right? If you guys don't update your node, you may have some serious problems. Just kept hounding them until I finally got a response. It's just another one of those things that there is no official body to take care of. I, of course, publish the news. There's no official media organization or media wing or marketing wing or anything like that. So somebody's got to write the news. I write the news. Other people write the news as well. There is no official news, so please subscribe to whatever news source.
We really appreciate the news you've got. So if anyone's unaware of where to get that news, I've put links under the spaces so you can get that. It's in a written format, it's in video format, so in any format that you like, you can easily consume. So it's really appreciated.
Yeah, I think it's almost I don't want to say the wrong number, but it's probably around 15 different platforms where I publish the news every single week. I write it, edit, film it, edit it, subtitle it, everything, all by myself. There's no assistance involved. And then of course, there's also things like I'm updating websites all across the space where they have Bitcoin Cash information presented on their website. If it's the wrong logo, sometimes they make their own bespoke handmade thing, which nobody can recognize. I fire off a message and hey guys, here are some logos you could use if you want. And part of that is also managing the Coin Market Cap Bitcoin Cash page. Anybody can submit information to it. Like, it's not like I have exclusive control over it or anything. CoinMarketCap has a series of forms that you can use to submit information to. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing it. However, the team at CoinMarketCap probably won't take you seriously if you're bob@yahoo.com. They do, however, know me, and they know that the submissions that I've entered have been reliable, and therefore they've accepted them.
Sorry?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's really, all the work that you're going into there and all the stuff you're doing. It's like some of it is people can see, such as with the news. Maybe they weren't aware of all the different formats it's in, but all of this work that's in the back end, this is stuff that almost no one sees actually.
Right.
But it's really important, and this is what is updating incorrect information on websites, the bad logos, maybe the bad addresses, recommending the cache address, for example, to prevent BCH being sent to the wrong chain.
Right.
All of this work is really important, but not very glamorous. No one gets to see it. You don't get to see, because no one's seeing it. Then you don't get a pat on the back to say, "Hey, a great job," which we'll come to in a second. But just just what you've done. I know I've stopped you, but there's so much here, and you're dedicating. And I know you personally. For anyone that's listening, I would consider Cheapy a friend, and I'm aware of his activities. Not all of them, but a lot of them, and I'm always impressed by how dedicated he is to the mission of Bitcoin Cash and becoming this decentralized currency for the world. In like a sentence or two, why
Sure.
are you so dedicated? What drives you in helping Bitcoin Cash and spending so much of your time and energy on this community and project?
Yeah, I think in a single sentence, to change the world. It may seem, I don't know, what's the word I'm
awesome,
looking for?
Amazing, the correct way, changing the world.
Yes, thank you. It may seem
pithy.
Pithy. I don't know, something like that, like starry-eyed dreaming or whatever.
Yeah.
As when I was young, I was quite apathetic because I very quickly realized that voting isn't really going to matter. My one vote isn't going to change much. If I go, at best, if I go to like a town hall meeting, I could express my dissatisfaction with the angle of the stop sign on the corner or whatever. And that's not really going to do much to affect change in a meaningful way in the world. Protesting against Occupy Wall Street or whatever certainly could have an effect, but again, I don't think it's going to really move the needle nearly as much as trying to figure out what the actual problem behind all of the problems are.
Definitely.
And when I read about Bitcoin, I very quickly and clearly saw, this is a way to actually affect meaningful change in the world, because money is what makes everything go around. And talking before, you talked about decentralization. The central banks of various countries have a complete monopoly. They're completely in control, and there's nothing you can do to wrestle that control away from them. You can't issue a new currency for your nation as a single individual. But the Bitcoin movement is revolutionizing the market and finance and just straight up cash for the entire planet. And just looking at something as simple as mail, right? So I was born pre-internet, and so I wrote letters and postcards and all those other things, and then email came out, and I don't remember the last time I physically wrote a letter, right? And as we evolve as a society, it's really obvious that things are going to get more efficient. They're going to get more decentralized, and the world's going to get a lot smaller very quickly. So obviously money is going to be part of that. At some point in the future, whether you like it or not, assuming the human race survives, and assuming that money is still a thing that we care about, there will be a global currency. And do you want that to be a global currency that's created and controlled by a handful of people whose motivations you don't understand and have no say in? Or do you want to be part of the revolution that creates new money for the world? And so I know you asked for one sentence, but it is changing the world. It's changing the market. It's freeing the market. It's freeing the world. That's it.
It was a very long sentence, but every single word of it was beautiful. So thank you. Yeah, very aligned here. So, all right, let's talk about your FundMe. So you've been doing all of this work and much more over the last, several years, and I know you've been especially active over the last 12 months. And as I understand, this work has been voluntary. So you've put your donation QR code in your posts. But overall, what you receive doesn't even cover the costs. What you've actually put out of your own pocket to be able to create all of this content, videos, and the work that you're doing, which is why, as I understand, you've created a FundMe. So for those that don't know, FundMe.cash. This is a place where you can set up your particular project that you want to achieve, or whatever, you want to raise some money for some particular thing that you want to do or have done, and then people get to voluntarily donate to this. It reaches its target, and then that money is then freed to that person's wallet. And Cheapy has created such a FundMe. So yeah, if you could just discuss a little bit about this, like what is your FundMe designed for, and what's the current status of it, and when's the end date? When do we have to get this over the line by?
Yeah, it's currently about 70%. I haven't checked since this space started. It went over 50% in the first 24 hours, which was shocking to me, touching. I feel absolutely appreciated and validated, and all of those things. And I had to be, I've been kicking around the idea of fundraising for quite a long time, and to be quite honest, I was really fearful that it would get like a handful of satoshis and be like, thanks. And that hasn't been the case at all. So I feel really good that we've rocked this hard so quickly. It ends, I believe, Christmas Day, or maybe the day after Christmas. I'm not sure. But there's 25 days left. So quite a bit of time, but obviously feel free to give me your money as soon as you want.
Give me your money. This is the sales pitch of the year.
Yes,
Marketing extraordinaire. Give
right.
me your money. So yeah, the fundraiser is at 71.43% complete. So that's a total of 85.7 BCH out of a target of 120. So Cheapy, I guess many people on here would be interested. How many fundraisers have you already done for Bitcoin Cash? Three, technically three. So I did a flip starter many years ago for a project that I was trying to get off the ground called Build.cash. It failed miserably, and I guess at that time I was relatively unknown, and so people rightfully thought, well, why would I contribute to this? So that's fair enough. And then when FundMe launched, I did a very small test campaign that I just called for cat food. I think it was about $5, just to try out the platform, see how it worked, and see if people would contribute. It also failed, which doesn't particularly matter. You couldn't even get $5. Shit.
Yeah. Well, the expiry time at the time was only in blocks, and I didn't calculate in my brain how many blocks X number of days is, and so it was very short. I think it was less than a week, the campaign. And of course, at the time, nobody knew what FundMe was, and of course, also many people didn't have cash token enabled wallets or Wallet Connect enabled wallets as well. So, the fact that it failed doesn't matter because it wasn't a serious thing either. But then, not long after that, I started another FundMe campaign just to pay for the pro CAPTCHA bot for the Bitcoin Cash channel, which is the main chat on Telegram. There was a big spam and bot problem. And of course, because the group is over 3,000 people, free tools don't really work anymore. So I just fundraised, I think it was about $100 just to pay for the bot. And of course, once again, just to give people an opportunity to try out FundMe, to try out Cash and Eyes, Paytaka, Zapit, any of the wallets that you could use to contribute. And I specifically asked whales not to contribute more than a certain low amount of funds because I wanted as many people to have an opportunity to actually try it and see how it works. So
Okay,
yeah.
so that's four flip starters. So 2 were failures.
Yes.
Even 2 were
Even
failures.
5 more.
One was for a genuine, like, is it something you actually? It was an expense. You were just the one that
Yes.
organized this and paid for this
Yep.
to benefit the Telegram group. So this isn't
Yep.
something that paid for any of your time, as I understand. It
Oh
was
no.
just an expense.
Yep.
Which means that this is actually the first flip starter, though the first FundMe, the first raiser where it's actually about your time. And up until now,
Yes.
all of the time that you've been doing has been voluntary work, more or less.
Yes,
Wow.
completely. Well, I mean, many people have suggested, monetizing what I do in various ways, um, and I explored it a little bit. Trying to sell. What are the realistic numbers about selling merchandise, t-shirts, etc. What about creating a moderator group? Would anybody be willing to pay to have like what I call the mod squad, a group of people to moderate your groups? And when you look at the wider crypto community, that is a huge thing that people do. You look at token projects on Ethereum or Solana or whatever. There's entire crews of people who are paid huge amounts of money to do moderation work, etc. But unfortunately, Bitcoin Cash is still too small to warrant the amount of cost that it would take. And of course, in order to make it a business that is viable, would the numbers just don't work out. So. I was hoping not to have to do a fundraiser. I was hoping to do some kind of monetization. But then I also looked into the legal aspects of it. Obviously, if I'm going to be doing like a business, it has to be registered here in Japan. And the cost and all that of it also just isn't worth it. Just you have to have a board of directors and all of these things, right? It's just it becomes a whole mountain of issues that it just isn't viable. So as much as I do, want Bitcoin Cash to succeed, I'm dedicated to it. At the same time, I do need to eat. I do need to pay for electricity and all those other things. And so. It's really just a point of is this work something that people think is valuable? Does the weekly news help bring eyes to your project? Do you value that? If you do value that, how much do you value that? And donate a amount that you think is worthy of that effort. If you think that my work helps Bitcoin Cash in general and therefore helps the price go up because more people get exposed to Bitcoin Cash, more people buy Bitcoin Cash, more people use your platform, your product, whatever it is, maybe you can pass a little over and say thank you, a little tip.
Yes.
But again, it's all voluntary. I'm happy to help in any way I can, and there's no price attached to my help, and so like Milan can confirm when he started exploring accepting Bitcoin Cash for NanoGPT, he contacted me we talked back and forth. I helped him, find the information that he needed, and that's just one of many examples of things that I do all day, every day, talking to people, trying to coordinate things some way if possible. Last night I was up till 5 a.m. not only working on the news, but also sending information to all the major DeFi projects on Bitcoin Cash about how they can quickly and easily get their project reflected on DeFi Llama, and hopefully that will then be reflected that Bitcoin Cash's TVL is higher. This is just off the top of my head, stuff that I do that hopefully adds value. And
it definitely adds value.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many of the people who know what you're doing, have seen any of, just a fraction of what it is that you offer, know that it absolutely is of value. And every single stakeholder of Bitcoin Cash, as you say, even Milan. So Milan is not a Bitcoin Cash supporter. Nevertheless, he's a stakeholder. His business accepts Bitcoin Cash and gets the benefit from the activities that you've done, which of course, every service that accepts Bitcoin Cash is a benefit to the entire ecosystem and every single builder in it. So everything you're doing, Cheapy, it has value. And this is what I can say, this is why Bitcoin Cash for me is such an exciting community to be part of, because there are so many people volunteering their time, to the project because of everything that it stands for. And Cheapy is one of the ones that I think of the most when I think of, the amount of work and value that's being done voluntarily. Many come for the gains, but they stay for the mission. So for everyone that's listening, Cheapy's fund can be found at fundme.cash/campaign/17. I've put a link to that in the comments. Fiendish and Friends fully support and endorse this FundMe, and we have witnessed all of the time, or at least some of the time, an effort that fellow friend Cheapy has put into the Bitcoin Cash mission and doing much important work that no one else is willing to do. Under the BCH Foundation, Cheapy has invested huge amounts of time and his own capital even to make this all happen, and is, as said, to the benefit of all Bitcoin Cash stakeholders, coming at a significant cost to himself, not just in time, but also financially. This flip starter covers those costs and allows this important work to continue in the volume that it has been in the past. So it's an important point that I know that Chibi is keen to make, is he's part of this community. If this flip starter isn't reached, he's still there and he still loves Bitcoin Cash, and he will do what he can to make sure and ensure its success. But of course, everyone has to eat, everyone has to pay for cat food if you have cats. And so his time will have to be spent on other things to be able to earn money and pay for those, life-sustaining activities. So therefore, Fiendish and Friends have contributed towards the FundMe, and we encourage every listener who loves P2P Cash, and especially those who want to see Bitcoin Cash succeed, to donate towards the cause, or at the very minimum, and this is all we're asking for, to go and check out Cheapy's FundMe, links in the comment as said, and to give it some consideration. Thank you, Cheapy, for joining today. I wish you all the luck with raising the remaining 29% of your campaign. We are confident it will be successful to the benefit of BCH and its mission of worldwide mass usage. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm looking at the time. We're half an hour out past what the intention was. This is the issue in having such three such interesting guests on. But thank you very much for joining. Thanks again to our special guests joining today. So Claude, Milan de Reede, excuse me, and Cheapy. Make sure to follow them on x.com at Basepoker HQ, at Milan de Reede, and at Cheap Lightning, respectively. A Fiendish token will be given out to each of our special guest speakers. Just comment your Cash token address or send it as a private message. If you enjoyed the show and want to show your appreciation, please feel free to drop some BCH or a Fiendish token into our wallet. The Cash token address is in the description of our X profile, or pick up an exclusive Fiendish and Friends NFT available for 0.05 BCH, or get a scorching 75% discount by paying just three Fiendish tokens, or get the ultimate discount by paying just 2 Fiendish tokens along with 100,000 Fiendish Emerald. Huzzah! Reach out to us directly or on X on Telegram for more information. There are only 5 unique NFTs per episode of Fiendish and Friends, also available at tapswap.cash. Fiendish and Friends episode 4 is at 4:30 Central European Time next Friday, featuring Callan Kuliani, maintainer and developer, BCHN, Fulcrum, and Electron Cash, and Callisti, BCH proponent, active BTC Twitter wit battler, and developer of Selene Wallet. For all you fans that can't wait to listen, just make sure you pop that one Fiendish token into the jukebox and hit play, turning one tokenized minute of Fiendish time into an entire 60 minutes, or in this case 120, of the latest Bitcoin Cash news and updates. Fiendish tokens are available at Cauldron Swap with links in the comments. This was Fiendish and Friends. I wish all you lovely fiends a very good morning, good day, and good night.